Live from the Clarity from Chaos studios, heard worldwide, it's Dave Campbell. And so Dave and his guests explore, discuss, and work on solutions to some of life's biggest challenges. So, if you're ready, be prepared to be enlightened, amused, and even shocked by what you hear. And now, the real, the authentic, the one and only Dave Campbell.
Welcome back to Clarity from Chaos. On this episode, we're going to be discussing our First Amendment rights with founder of Wimkin Social Media, Jason Sheppard. Jason launched Wimkin to combat big tech censorship. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I really appreciate it.
I'm really well aware of the whole censorship issue. Recently, I've been dumped on Spotify, dumped on YouTube, basically for talking about the COVID-19 protocols.
Mm-hmm.
And so anybody that's out there trying to create a free flow of communication and information is right there at the top of my list. So what were the struggles that were around you leading yourself up to creating Wimkin?
To be quite honest with you, Daniel, I mean, so you just mentioned COVID. I mean, COVID is, I guess, one of the main reasons that conservatives were certainly censored on, I guess, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all the big tech platforms, if you know what I mean. Obviously pre-Musk, but Musk still has some censorship issues, which we could talk about. But
Right.
So I actually worked for Pennsylvania's second largest health insurer and our second largest tri-state medical network, which was also, it couples as an actual medical network and health insurer. So, and my department, we were spearheaded to actually deliver 130,000 COVID tests to PCPs, primary care physicians. That's the only place you can actually get a test before they started doing PCRs out at like CVS's and aids. And so for our 2,300 physicians that actually we had designated as PCPs, I was responsible for 85 of those. In the first week, we actually, delivered these tests. Me being in IT for this company, we had to set up first and foremost, the testing protocols to where you actually, put in the system for their medical records and everything. Then above and beyond that, reporting to the county health departments, because obviously they want an electronic wire to where you can actually get results like this, like a snap of the finger.
Right.
So, It came down to this, essentially why Wimkin was actually born in my mind was, so we got this project. We were told we had to start doing this project in September of 2019. How many people in America knew anything about COVID-19 in September of 2019?
Probably 0 minus 0.
0 minus 0 unless you were in the government, unless you were on Fauci's team. I mean, I'm spitballing here, but it can't be ignored. I mean, I lived through this, and then want to be on above that actually. So once we actually delivered these tests and they were, administered to patients, they were testing just for any coronavirus. Now, you and I, as we sit here right now, Daniel, we probably have at least 7 in our body, 6 to 7, 6 to 10, and we're asymptomatic because there's now 70 plus known species of coronavirus that actually, are in a human's body. And when we're testing just for coronavirus, we were literally returning 100% positive. It was more like 95% positive, but it was an alarming rate. And that's why you saw the live death trackers on TV. That's why you saw the lockdowns. That's why you saw everything. And I would not put my name with that. I went to my superiors and I said, hey, no, I can't do this. Something is inherently wrong. I had 17 out of my 85 doctors call and say we're refusing to give these tests because they're worried about their own liability, first and foremost. Secondly, They just think it's wrong. And that's how I started a platform called worldmustknow.com. It was comprehensive, though actually the world's most comprehensive COVID timeline. We had about 40 entries per day, between like 17 countries usually, one of the, some of the biggest countries in the world. And we started getting up to 35,000 hits a day on this site, and people wanted to actually contribute, and they wanted to actually write their own articles and things, and they wanted to actually tell their stories. So they said, hey, can you expand on this? And that's how Wimkin was born. And World Must Know, obviously, worldmustknow.com was the old site. So we just turned it into World Must Know Now, which stands for WMKN, WMKN. That's how it all started.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you.
Well, the hits just keep coming. I just noticed that the House Judiciary Committee dumped a bunch of documents showing collusion with Facebook.
Oh, sure.
And in the White House, and then, obviously there was the recent lawsuit that was handed down where they basically smacked the ears of all the three-letter agencies for censorship. But I guess my bigger question is, if we fight the big tech companies for censorship, what are we doing about the mainstream media, Jason?
Ooh. Well, we have to get people to stop listening to them first and foremost. I mean,
because I can only think of consumer pressure is the only thing that would right that ship, because as far as I'm concerned, it's just the tip of the iceberg with the tech giants, because nobody's talking about any collusion with the mainstream media. And that's been going on for as long as I can remember. I mean, from a kid, I could trace it back to, to Vietnam and forward, and God only knows how further back it goes. But there's been misinformation out the kazoo on that. And we don't seem to, we talk about the quote fake news, but nobody's doing anything about it, right?
Well, we try. We really try. Right. WMKN now has over 9 million patriots. We fought Apple and Google Play first and foremost. We fought them for 8 months. They wanted us to basically bow to their content moderation demands. Whatever their narrative was, we had to run with, and we said no, absolutely not. So it took 8 months, but we ended up winning that. The only thing we did concede was we took uncensored out of our name, because that's actually true. We're not uncensored. You can actually you can get banned for sharing pornography. You can get banned for and you can get banned for sharing any type of post with any type of criminal element. If you want to say, I'm going to come to your house and beat you up, or I'm going to do worse than that, or you try to sell drugs and stuff on our platform, you're gone. So I said, okay, so you guys banned us for 8 months when we were number one in the app stores just because you wanted to stunt our growth, and then you just tell us at the end, it's just your marketing aspect. Let's take uncensored out of your name. After you literally sent us 45 emails about what we needed to do to change. So, we get it, but we fought through it. Daniel, we also actually, we did not comply with 2 J6 select committee demands and 1 subpoena. So the way we're designed, we just actually couldn't actually cooperate with them, because we don't verify email addresses. We don't have any access to individuals' messages. It's encrypted. They wanted credit card numbers. They wanted algorithms. They wanted text messages between users, which I didn't even understand what they meant by that. And we were prepared to give them nothing. So I believe when you say something like that, what can we do and who's standing up? We are the, very few and far between that are standing up, as are you. Your show, you're doing something. You really are. You're doing a great service. And it doesn't go unnoticed. I'll tell you that much.
Well, that's, thanks for the compliment. I don't know, given some circumstances, if it's going unnoticed or not, but I do appreciate it. But it does perplex me that the 6 corporate giants out there get away with this stuff. Sure. And nobody really challenges them. You get the fact checkers out there, but I think, the streaming platforms like yourself is probably the last bastion of any kind of truth moving around the universe, because I don't think there's anything, and I'm going to include all of the 6 corporate giants. I think they're all guilty of misinformation, manipulation, and Lord knows what all, right?
I believe that 100%. And obviously too, and I can actually say I'm innocent of this. I truly can, but I get in leftist media now because we're getting reach again. We were stifled. Our growth was stifled on purpose, but we're coming back out. We're over 9 million people now. So we're not exactly, we have a very powerful voice is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I get accused of just allowing conservative voices. And that's not the way it works. Free speech knows no sides. It knows no political parties. This is what our country was literally founded upon. So I want every individual that lives here and is a part of this country and who is, just a human being to have this right. I mean, we are living in the age of thought police now, and it's quite sad. And it's also kind of sad that people see us, again, that comes down to mainstream media, Daniel, because they beat it into their head that we are a certain way, and we're not. We welcome your opinion. We want you to come over and talk about it because you're allowed to. On other, platforms, I guess if it's pro Facebook and it's pro vaccine and all these things that they love, I guess you can get away with it there, whatever you want to say. But we want you to come over. We want to learn from each other. We actually don't mind unity, or at least the idea of it, for goodness sakes.
Right. I mean, just the exchange of ideas, whether you like them or not,
sure,
becomes food for thought. You could not like somebody. Now, I mean, you could just be so enraged and so far on the right or so far on the left that your brain is completely shut down to any kind of new ideas. But that leaves about 95% of us in the middle that are open, that at least our ears and our eyes are open to new ideas, new ways of looking at it. And point in fact, it's like RFK Jr. He's a Democrat, but God, he's got a lot of very articulate things on his platform that he's talking about that deserve interest, right? And
I disagree.
And the mainstream media is going absolute bonkers trying to censor him, which I can't quite understand, because he's very much an EPA advocate, very much anti-big corp kind of individual. And you would think that the nut jobs on the left would just be embracing the hell out of that. But
sure.
But they're taking their orchestration from what the mainstream media.
You know what? I believe it's all a tandem. Big tech, Democratic politicians, and obviously lobbyists like Pfizer, Moderna, these corporations, and obviously big tech certainly involves in that. But, to be honest with you, when you look at RFK Jr., he is 10 times the man that Joe Biden is and probably ever was. Let's be honest here. And even just in physical stature, the guy, obviously he has a voice impediment because he got injured, but he's still out there. He's still fighting. And it shows you, if you watched any of the hearing where he was bringing censorship into Congress and his own party villainized him, his own party basically, they wanted to take it into private and not show it to the public. That's how bad that it was. I mean, they tried to censor a censorship hearing. I mean, let's be honest here. So, that's the point that we're at right now, and it's quite sad. And there's a lot of aspects with RFK that I don't agree with at all. But
I'm not saying that I agree with him or don't agree with him.
I understand that, but I'm just
saying it's just listening to him and being able to, hear his point of view. It's just like with Vivek Ramaswamy. You may not like him, you may like him, whatever, but he should have the platform to at least discuss his thoughts, his ideas on where he wants to take the country. It shouldn't be censored in any way, shape, or form.
I totally agree with you, and that's why we exist. But just back to the RFK thing for a second. I have never seen a person that actually. We're all living in an age right now where this president is the most infirm president I think we've ever seen. I mean, we're talking about FDR being in a wheelchair, and presidents.
He's the most infirm in my lifetime.
Yeah. So I mean, you really have to go back, and a lot of people obviously didn't live through a lot of these things in terms of. Going back so many years for X and Y, but he is probably not going to be able to finish his second term I don't believe he even is going to run for one, to be honest with you at this point, but you have a guy like RFK that can actually kind of expand the Democratic Party into different horizons, and they are shutting him down at every turn because he doesn't fit their narrative, and it's incredible to see. It really is.
It is. I never would have imagined for a moment that the mainstream media would have come out like attack dogs
Oh yeah,
on RFK Jr. I never, number one, just from his lineage, from his
sure,
namesake,
absolutely.
he's like being off limits like the Clintons. I
Yep.
never would have thought that. So it makes me wonder the ties to mainstream media and the Biden administration and or the people that are controlling the Biden administration. What's going on there? Because I wouldn't think that any, and pardon the phrase, right-thinking Democrat would go along with this censorship of RFK. I just don't. But that, there we
Yeah.
have it.
I agree with you. It'd be a very hard sell to do that, but you know what? When you have Deborah Washburn Schultz, who should not even hold any position after what she did with Bernie Sanders and the Clinton
No.
campaign. I mean, it's, you know what? They have no morals. They have no ethics. They have no values.
No.
Let's be quite honest here. And it's gotten to the point where I think some people in their party are starting to see it, but I guess maybe that's wishful thinking on my part.
Well, you have the Gen Zs and the millennials, and I don't know quite where they're at with all of this because RFK Jr. obviously the history behind him, they weren't familiar with it all. When Bobby got assassinated,
Right.
when his dad got killed, or when his uncle got killed, so they're just hearing a man with a raspy voice right now, right?
Yes.
They don't know the lineage, the political history behind him, but just over his environmental advocacy, I'm just amazed that the fringe hasn't got
Sure.
all over that. I just am.
Well, Dan, you also made a really good point too, because if you have these young ones out there, let's Gen Zs, and let's bring it down to maybe 18-year-olds to 30-year-olds that really don't know too much history, that went through high school recently, things of that nature. They're seeing a man vilified on the level of, no one's ever been vilified on the level of Donald Trump, but this is a relatively close second to me by that party. For them to do that to him in their own hearing, it's mind-boggling, and it staggers me to say, you have a person that actually could get votes. He's polling over 20% in some of the polls right now,
Right.
and you have an incumbent president. So people do not want Biden in their own party. Of course, they don't believe he's going to last, and I don't mean in terms of. I wish obviously death on nobody in any way, shape, or form. I don't wish ill will or harm on anybody.
No, he should just retire. Go out to his house in Rehoboth and be done with it.
But they don't want Kamala either, though.
No, they don't. No, they don't. They do not, and they can't figure out how the hell to get rid of her. Right?
And you can't say to me, or again, I can't say as a conservative. I'm a conservative Republican. I would, if out of those three and out of Gavin Newsom, who keeps being tossed into this, I would if a Republican does not win, I would much rather see RFK in there.
I would absolutely too. As a matter of fact, I'll take it one further. I wouldn't mind seeing like a Ramaswamy and an RFK Jr. as a ticket, quite frankly, because they both have interesting ideas, right?
Sure. We've had the last couple presidencies, so but we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that they're messing with the wrong type of people. I think that.
Well, they're not value-based, Jason.
Right. You're 100% right. Even scientific polling would show you, but I'd like to see a poll against RFK versus Kamala, because as of right now,
yeah, I said I don't even think she's registering on poll numbers now. She's so far in the dumpster.
I don't think she got above 9% in her own
something like that. Yeah,
state, in her own state.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Boy, but the Democratic Party is in a world of trouble. The Hunter Biden plea deal yesterday gives the conservative side, or just actually the American people, to see the truth. And
a little hope. Yeah, there's a little hope. There was a little hope in that a judge actually read the documentation and basically found out how much of a shell game was going on. And now everybody's surprised that she actually read the damn plea deal that nobody else has been able to see. And, she came to what I would consider a common sense conclusion when they were, they were playing hide the salami in there, and that was just, ridiculous.
It was bad. And you know what, though? Everybody but her is complicit. Everybody in that courtroom besides her has egg on their face.
Yep.
And I absolutely applaud her and commend her because
it takes guts
to do. It does. Yes, it really, really does. And who knows how long this is going to, I mean, in my mind, it won't taint her. I mean, she did the right thing. She has to go home and sleep with that. You know what I mean? She has a family. Yep. She's obviously, she has to take those values that she's doing at work back into her home and teach, her children, teach her family members, and then obviously teach people that look up to her, clerking and obviously in school and everything, that want to say, hey,
right,
I want to be a federal court or a district court judge one day. But, I really believe that she said, this is not in fairness. You have this hanging out in the balance here, that there's an ongoing investigation, yet you're telling me that he's not going to face any more charges, but this investigation is not closed yet. I mean, any judge would do that. But when it's the first son of the United States,
right,
it cannot be easy. So she needs really commended.
Yep. She needs big hat tip to her.
Yes.
So let me close out with the big question of the day. We've been talking about censorship.
Sure.
Which bears the question for me, UFOs.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Obviously the government has been lying for years. They've been covering up things for years. Mm-hmm. I guess my question is, obviously the mainstream media is not going to go anywhere near it. Do you think, like your site and the other sites that allow free speech, are going to see an uptick in discussion around this?
I mean, after today's hearing, I would certainly say yes. I mean, that was yesterday, and I guess a spillover today.
Right.
Those were. I mean, you have decorated pilots. You have individuals that are not, I guess the term when you see a ghost or you see an alien, it gets that term, that person's a nut. These people are not nuts. And they are not being paid to do this. They are literally risking, I mean, their careers are pretty much going to be done, but they are giving up everything just to tell the truth about something they think the world should know. Right. And I mean, Wimkin has had a lot of UFO discussion. I mean, a lot of people, I'm a little bit ignorant to it, even though I did grow up right near, it's called the Nike missile site in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. It's one of the most infamous UFO sightings, and it's supposedly a crash, and they took it there. So, I mean, I grew up sort of fascinated with this, but as far as actually me knowing too much about it, unless from what I just read, I mean, I've seen the footage. The footage is on Wimkin. People put the South American Army, I can't remember which one it was, but the South American Air Force that actually caught a flying disc that was straight down below that couldn't be faked. And, some of the footage we saw with how things just take off in midair, hover in midair, just stop. I mean, tell us the truth. I mean, what are they shielding us from anyways? I mean, from
obviously, they're not shielding us from anything. If it is in fact true,
yes.
Like they said yesterday, that they've actually got biologics from crashes and everything else. So I hate to go to Hollywood, but I mean, there they are. So I don't know what the world they're shielding us from. Right.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know one area named 51 that's going to be very, very busy after this because
they certainly are.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Great. I mean, they have great tourism there, but we will see that. But I'll be honest. I mean, that's where most people that actually, I mean, I've read into things. Of course, I like to read some things, when I actually have spare time. But I'll tell you, I mean, that's where most people think that this happened, and you've been hearing about this for years. I've listened to Coast, and some of it's very far-fetched. Some of it's actually very intriguing. So, it really is fascinating either way you look at it. But if something is going on out there, which, I believe to a certain extent, there is certainly something happening. I don't believe that these things could be actual natural phenomena because there's nobody in the world that could have better technology than us. We would somehow know about it. We have the best spy agencies in the world. We would know what someone else is doing. So, I mean, for that type of technology, you're right. But that type of technology to do what it's doing in the air, let's just think about their weapons. And let's just say we're blessed enough to not have learned about those yet.
Yeah, exactly. So where can people go out and find Wimkin Social? What's the website?
So Wimkin is WIM as in Mary, KIN as in Nancy.com. In radio, obviously, there's call letters. So we tried to put WMKN as those, but we weren't allowed. The FCC said no. So it stands for World Must Know Now. Everyone's like, are you a Chinese company? I'm like, no, we're not Chinese, but it just stands for World Must Know Now. It's WMKN sounded out. But so we're able to be found on the web there, and also in app stores at Wimkin, because we did beat our 8-month App Store bans, and we're rocking and rolling.
Oh, great. It's been an absolute pleasure to you. We've been talking to Jason Sheppard, who is the founder of the Wimkin Social Media. And it's been an absolute pleasure, sir, talking to you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I really appreciate it so much.
You bet.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to listen to more Clarity from Chaos shows on demand, go to clarityfromchaos.buzzsprout.com or send Dave an email at info@clarityfromchaos.com for information on previous shows. You can also listen to the show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Twitter, or Google Podcast. Until next time, please remember, it's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Be well, everyone.